Hi, my name is Nellie, and today I will be talking about my eating disorder and my recovery. So let's get started with it. There is going to be a lot to unpack here. So I am going to put some trigger warnings in here just so that, I don't scare anybody necessarily. In April of 2015, I was admitted to London Health Science Centres in London, Ontario, at a whopping 65 pounds, and I was dying. I knew it. I was dying. It was there that I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, panic disorder, and depression, obviously. So growing up, I've always been a lot smaller than all of my peers in high school and middle school or whatever. I've always been the smallest, and I think that's why for a long time I got away with not eating. Yeah. I was in April. I remember sitting in my apartment. Was on my favorite chair in my little den, and I remember just sitting there thinking, I don't feel right. Everything inside was hurting, my stomach, my bladder, everything down was hurting, and I was just like, I have to go see a doctor. I don't feel right. I couldn't drink water. I couldn't drink juice. I couldn't drink anything, get anything down. I never could anyways, but called my mom. She came and quickly took me to a health center, and the health center looked at me and was like, Nellie, you're 65 pounds. We're not letting you leave here unless you're in an ambulance going to London or somebody drives you there. So my mom drove me to London, and I was admitted there for not eating, basically. And I remember lying to the nurse and said that I hadn't eaten for a year. And she was like, okay, that's extreme. But it actually had been around 4 years. Throughout high school, I didn't eat much. If anything, maybe like smoothies and stuff like that, just to kind of keep me going. But I didn't really eat anything. But I didn't tell her that because I didn't want her to be overwhelmed, but she was pretty overwhelmed by the 1 year, so I was like, oh, I can't talk about the 4 years. Yeah, I didn't eat for 4 years. Solid food, I guess. I drank liquid, whatever, but I didn't necessarily eat much, if at all. And if I did, it was I make excuses about it. I would say I'm lactose intolerant, I'm a vegetarian, I'm vegan now. I would make excuses. Oh, I can't eat that. I'm allergic to this. I'm allergic to that. And so people just kind of were like, oh, okay, so she has a very strict diet. Maybe she just doesn't eat here. And people went along with it for years. And that was fine. It was during my first few nights in London at the hospital. I actually stayed on the emergency floor just because they didn't have any beds up in the mental health floor for me yet. So, first few days I stayed on the emerge floor, I guess, which is bottom level, if you're familiar. So I stayed there for a few days, and during those few days I had my boyfriend visit, my mom visit, and some really close friends from high school. But during those first few days, they would bring in food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it never got touched. Maybe the apple juice, the orange juice, maybe the pudding, maybe something very soft and small would get taken or eaten by me, but everything else was just pretty much untouched. And it made me feel very defeated in a way, because it was just like, you're just mocking me now. I can't eat. I really can't. I want to eat this food. I really do. Physically, I cannot make myself eat it. And it sucked. It really sucked. They brought in these beautiful dinners, and I just had to pretend that I was gonna eat it, but I never did. And so the first few days were always, very nerve-wracking and hard. But a few days later, I was taken upstairs to the mental health floor, and that's where they started treating me and kind of taking care of me. During my time up on the mental health floor, I was in like my own little room. It was kind of like a locked room where they monitored me all the time. So they would bring in food, bring it in, take it out, bring it in, take it out, bring it in, take it out, kind of thing for a few days. And one day I had a visitor. Her name was Ruth. She was a little Christian lady. She was really nice. And she kind of known my situation. She knew that I was, not eating, or that I wasn't eating enough, or she just knew I was sick. And she knew. But she was there to support me. And anyways, so she was sitting with me at dinner one night, and she's like, Nellie, God is going to save you. You are going to be saved at some point, and it would be beautiful if it was here. And I remember just thinking, I was like, I'm not going to be saved. I'm not that Christian, right? I'm not religious. I mean, I am religious, but I'm not that religious, I guess. But she's like, I believe he is here with us. And I was just like, okay, I guess if he's here, then, I guess I can kind of try. It was that night that I did finally eat something. I remember the first bite of mashed potatoes. I put them in my mouth, and I was like, don't spit it out, just swallow it, just swallow it. And so put it in my mouth, and I remember throwing it back and swallowing. And I remember the immense excitability that I got. I guess I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I did it. Oh my God, I didn't die. I didn't choke on it. I didn't throw it up. I didn't, it went down. It felt very weird because it was so solid, I guess, right? But yeah, I remember being like, oh my God, Ruth, I did it. And she was like, I knew you would. I knew it. And I remember being like, oh my God, maybe he is here with us. And I was like, oh my God. And, started eating more after that, and just filling myself up bit by bit. And after that night, I remember later that night, actually, I was laying in my bed, and I was so happy that I had finally swallowed some food. And every so often nurses would come in to check in on me, and blood pressure, take my blood to see if everything was still good. So I had someone come in to take, all of that. And I remember sitting there being like, I'm hungry. And I had an abundance of little snacks that they had left during lunch and dinner that they leave for you. I remember looking at him and asking him about the croissant that was sitting there. I was like, can I eat that? And he's like, yeah, go for it, eat it. And, I ate it, and it was fine. And I remember being so excited about it because I was just like, oh my god, I'm eating it. I'm consuming this little croissant. This is amazing. I'm doing it. I'm eating. But yeah. And then over the next course, a few days after that, you know, I was starting to eat more and more. But once you start eating after an eating disorder, they don't really tell you that it hurts. I remember like the stomach pains, it just felt like someone was ripping at the insides of me. And I remember just crying on the bed sometimes, and they're like, no, this is normal, like your body just isn't used to eating food again. You know, it's just stuff's happening in here. It's fine. Didn't think anything of it, but it was fine. Next couple of days, I was moved from my little secluded room to another area with everybody else, and it was there that I met a few other people, other girls that were fighting their own battles with food, you know, bulimia and anorexia and stuff like that, right? Different mental health, I guess, we're all in Gen Pop, I guess I'm gonna call it. I sat with the same 4 girls, ladies, women, and I found my support group. You know, they had their own issues, but we all sat there together talking about it all the time. You know, for the next couple of weeks, we would sit there and chat and see how we were all doing, and one by one, they would all get released and better, to my knowledge, I think, but I never know. I wish I had still connected with them because they were all amazing women. They really helped me during my time. You know, they really listened, I guess, was my thing. They really cared. Yeah. So over the couple of weeks, I did gain back a lot of weight. I was, I think, around 87 pounds when I was released, and, you know, still going. And so I was released at 87 pounds, but still going up, and I was supposed to continue to check in with the hospital, the nutritionist, and everybody there month by month by month to see how my progress was going. And after a few months, I was healthily situated at 95 pounds. Still 95 pounds to this day. I cannot for the life of me get any more on me. I wish I could, I just can't for the life of me. It's not that I don't want to, it's just literally physically I can't do it. But yeah, it was a very traumatic but very enlightening, I think, time of my life. And I wanted to share today with you guys because, you know, it's something that really has been sitting with me.